Hello everyone, namaste. I am Vasanta and I am here in beautiful Vilnius, Lithuania today. It is the 21st of August of the year 2017 and many people have been writing to me about the upcoming solar eclipse. We're going to have it within a few hours here in Lithuania. The total solar eclipse is going to be starting exactly at around 6:45 p.m. and it's going to extend the main phase of the eclipse is going to extend all the way till around 11 p.m. So I wanted to speak to you about precautions. If you don't know where the eclipse is happening or what time it's happening in your country, you can go to there's many websites. You can just Google total solar eclipse and the name of your city. And there's many tables that are going to appear there that will be telling you at what time the eclipse is going to be happening. So in Vedic tradition, I remember in the times that I was in the ashram with my Gurudev, what we would do during eclipses is he would really tell us that eclipses are considered super inauspicious. Mainly because all the sattva coming in from the sun, which is the goodness or the consciousness, the light of the sun, is going to be totally blocked from our consciousness. So what this means is that generally, it operates in a very subtle level, and it's a vibration. So the way that you can try to see subtle things is through trying to imagine that everything is like music in the universe. So, at certain days, this beautiful music is playing in a very beautiful way. And I'm having a question if it's affecting India. Yes, of course, it's affecting the entire world. And while in India, it'll be, you can count 3.5 hours before. So I think the solar eclipse is going to be going on in India from around 1 p.m. till around 9 p.m. So the way that you can see things is imagine that you have there's music playing in the universe, and every single day that goes by, I'm getting another, even if you're not going to see the total solar eclipse in your country, it still affects you. Like it'll be visible because of the path of the earth with respect to the sun. It'll be more visible in some countries than it always is. But nevertheless, even if you're not going to see it, even if you're not going to see it in the country you're in, for example, India, like you're not going to see the total effect on the sky. Anyhow, it affects. So you should take precautions. So you can imagine that we are in a beautiful, play of music, and what happens during eclipses, somehow the goodness of consciousness, of awareness, it gets dulled, and a fog comes. So what you're going to be seeing during these days, and especially because there is so much going on apart from the eclipse, we have the planets Rahu and Ketu, for example. They are they have been 1.5 years in the sign of Leo. So, in the beginning of this cycle, what happened is there was a lot of self-confidence in the air because Rahu obsesses, wherever it appears. So a lot of what you saw during this time, this 1.5 past year, is, an excessive self-confidence from, certain characters around you, or, you got the courage to go out there and give your message, or by the power of your free will, you decided to create a new life for yourself. So all these are very positive things. But of course, there's also negative things that have come from this. And what you're seeing right now in the world is that many of the leaders, of our world are showing excessive pride when it comes to making decisions and choices, etc. And right now, this cycle, it's closing. And we are having, a time when we're going from, Rahu is going to move from Leo, it's going to move into Cancer, and that happens next week. While this is happening, planet Mars is debilitated in Cancer as well, and it's going to be conjuncting Rahu in, the last degrees of Cancer, which is called a Gandanta. And a Gandanta means, the last degrees of water signs are, they're very treacherous degrees because water signs are all about emotion. So the last degrees of any sign of water speaks about, the spiritual maturity that we should have when it comes to, facing obstacles in our lives. And, like little kids, when, you take a toy, for example, today in the morning, my two daughters, they were fighting about an umbrella. And, if you take away the umbrella from one of them, it's like a big deal because emotionally they're not prepared to deal with it. Now, what happens with planets like Rahu and Ketu, which is the head and the tail of the dragon, and these planets, what they represent is our unconscious, drives and motivations, and our, they give us a vision into our unconscious. So when they happen to move, they're always in retrograde motion, which means, usually planets go from Leo to Virgo to Libra because they go in, in the right motion. But the nodes of the moon, they go in retrograde motion. So in this case, Rahu is moving from Leo, and it's going to be moving back into Cancer, which precedes Leo. And we're dealing with a lot of emotions that are going to be very challenging for the world. So apart from the eclipse on the 21, then Rahu and Ketu go into GaN Delta, which is the last degrees of the water signs. And what's going to happen is we're going to be presented with many situations in our lives that maybe we're not prepared to deal with. Just like a baby is not emotionally prepared to deal with the fact that they have to share their toys sometimes, as a world, we're going to be dealing with a major test during this time. And I think the tests are going to be, from the level of, co-working with people, from the level of co-living in this world with a lot of people, and, sharing a planet. There's a lot of heated arguments at the moment. So it all has to do with a very, very big change that has to come from our consciousness of what it is to have free will in this world. Because we are usually, we use our free will, but we use it without consciousness, and we use it without, proper guidance. And proper guidance basically means that we use our free will to generate, peace, love, service, in our consciousness and all around us. And that happens in Leo. So what we mainly see in the constellation of Leo is that we get the self-confidence to go ahead and, do whatever we need to do and create the life that we're here to create. But when it is done without discipline, our free will can turn into tyranny, or it could turn into oppression for others. So a lot of what is going on during this eclipse is precisely that, we are becoming aware that all the actions that we take in our life, they naturally have an effect. So everything that, that we have done up to this point, even if it's with good intention, what's going to come at this point in life is we're going to get a reality check to see if we are really doing, as well as we think we are doing, according, to the effects that our actions have around us, that our actions have with other people. So during the eclipse, what is recommended to do is, you can stay indoors. Again, for Lithuania, the time of the eclipse is from 6:30 to 11 p.m. It is actually starting at 3, but it's not fully at 3. It starts fully at 6:45. So during those times, it is recommended that, in Vedic tradition, we do it in this way. We don't take any type of food. We also don't drink any type of water, and even when it comes to passing, fluids, water, or excrement in the toilet, we don't do it. So it is a time dedicated to prayer, and we try to make this austerity that nothing comes in, nothing goes out at that time. Of course, according to your tradition, what you can do is, be very cautious of your dealings with people, and be very cautious on the way that, if there comes any probability of making any new business or starting anything new, it is actually not the best time to do it. So you should keep that for another time. And during the time of the eclipse, always try to, remember or try to keep yourself in good consciousness. So if you're a Christian, get out your Bible and try to read the words of the Lord. Try to read the prayers that, your ancestors have been praying. Connect to Jesus. If you are like me and you're following the Hindu path, then, get your Bhagavad Gita out, or, your mantras. Try to connect. What I'm going to personally be doing is, I'm going to be gathering with the devotees here in Vilnius, and we're going to get together and we're going to be chanting and praying, because, eclipses are times where naturally things get disrupted. So if you look at the news or what's going on right now in our world, towards the time of the eclipses, what happens is there's an increment in terrorist attacks, there's an increment in aggravations and the way that people speak to each other, the way that people refer to each other, the way that we relate to each other, and this goes in a micro scale to a very, very large scale. So if you start seeing that around you there's a lot of arguments, or with your spouse, be especially careful. If in your marriage you see that maybe there's a small disagreement, and from that small disagreement something bigger comes, remember that you are under the influence of the eclipse, and therefore that means that the darkest side of your unconscious is actually being revealed, because like during the day we can see things, but if somebody turns off the light during the day, then what happens? Well, we're still left with the moon. But in this case, in the case of the eclipse, those lights are not present. So what happens is, in our own consciousness, things bubble up that are left unconscious, and unconscious means we're not aware of them. So hidden angers, hidden resentments, hidden points of views that nobody should oppose me, that only my opinion should be right. So during this time, try to be extra careful in the way that you deal with the people that matter the most to you. And, exercise extreme tolerance at this time. That is the best possible thing that you can do. Be very, very tolerant. Remember that the way out of conflict is to resolve the conflict by finding a solution that can both be beneficial for yourself and the other. Because otherwise what you're doing is you're just arguing just to win an argument. But, the point of talking and the point of dealing with somebody is to really invite them to make peace. So eclipses are check times, where we're called to check on our attitude, check on our times. It's a reality check. And it's a time for us to really pray and to try to be in contact with the best of who we are. So, externally, we're usually given a world, especially our generation. I've gone a generation in the countries I've lived in, a generation without war. And but that didn't happen to generations before. So, for a long time we have been given a very, kind, beautiful program, a kind, beautiful life. But now really, the world is going, according to astrological indications, as a world, we are going into a time where we're really going to have to ask ourselves, how is it that we're going to balance, and how is it that we're going to continue living? So this whole eclipse, there's no coincidences in the universe. And the eclipse affects America in a very, very predominant way. It's going to be total over there. And if you see what's happening in the country as a whole, you got a lot of people in their governmental structure that are constantly being fired or kicked out. There's a lot of turmoil in the way that policies are being made, or the way that people are participating in the politics. The president, even though he has a point of view and he's trying to do the best that he can in order to give his vision of what should be, is facing a lot of opposition, and it is all because of the darkness of this eclipse, which is a major event. So remember, eclipses have nothing to do with spirituality. They're just opportunities for us to really go in and see, it's a checkpoint to see if we're doing right in our practice of spirituality. And what does it mean to be right? It means, you know, if I understand and I focus on what is real, what is best about me, I understand that, you know, I am an eternal soul, and I understand that the undercurrent of the universe is love, and that the power, you know, of the universe at all moments and at all circumstances belongs to God our Father. And if we take shelter exclusively of God, and we take shelter of love, and we practice love and service to God and one another, it doesn't matter what type of test we're going through, our core personality remains aligned to the, you know, undeniable principle of truth in the universe. So, you know, whether it's summer or spring or winter, you know, we carry on. And we carry on, you know, living from a place of value, trust, beauty, and love. And that eventually generates what we call spirituality, which is, you know, the way that I approach life, or the way that I connect with consciousness. So, you know, during the time of this eclipse, the only thing that is happening is, you know, we're all getting a chance to, you know, to fact check, you know, how well am I doing in my relationships with other people? How well am I doing in my relationship with myself? How well am I doing in my relationship with absolute consciousness, my relationship with God? And how do we do this? Well, you know, many traditions have different ways. Those of you who practice yoga, so, you know, you can go and you can meditate, you can close your eyes, and you can, you know, kindly connect with the source of goodness within you, you know, the hub of the heart that connects you with love and light. If you are like me and you're following Bhakti Yoga, then what we do is we're going to sit down, we're going to do kirtan, we're going to be glorifying and remembering the activities of the Supreme Lord. If you're a Christian, you can get your rosary out and do the Lord's Prayer. If you're a Buddhist, then you can, you know, practice the, you know, the mantras of love, kindness, and meditation that your preceptors have given you. So, you know, the main goal is to remain in kindness and compassion throughout this transit. Now, what is beyond our control and what other people are going to do, you know, due to the influence of the bad music or of the distressed music, which is what's going on in our world right now. We see it in the, you know, what just happened in Barcelona, or what's going on in Syria, or what's going on in America. The world is definitely going through a test right now. And there's things that we cannot control. But as far as we are concerned, we are beings of tremendous power, because we have the power to connect with love at every moment of our lives. And that is something done through our consciousness. So my message to you today is try to, you know, not freak out. If whatever test comes today, try to remain calm and peaceful, and remember that within you, you carry the solution. And the solution is always going to be love. So approach any type of challenge that comes today or in the upcoming week. You know, take a breath, you know, stand back, really meditate on what you're about to say and in the way that you're going to be approaching the people around you. And, you know, remember to always, you know, have kindness. Remember to keep in mind the goals that you have set for yourself, which are, you know, goals of happiness and truth. And try to keep in mind that, you know, you can control yourself when it comes to anger. So don't fall prey into your anger. You might feel that, you know, due to the circumstances, you're justified to be angry or have an emotional outburst on the person in front of you. But remember that in the end of the day, everything is a test of character and personality, and everything is an opportunity to cultivate those qualities that eventually are going to take us to a beautiful state. So happiness is the beautiful state of love, where, you know, where anger doesn't exist and suffering doesn't exist. So we kick out lust, greed, and anger from our heart, and only a beautiful state remains. So that is called a beautiful connection, or a beautiful yoga with the universe, a beautiful relationship with consciousness. So you can have that at any time. Of course, sometimes it's easier, and sometimes it's more challenging, like you know, the times that are going through right now. So a special call to attention. I don't usually do videos and go online on Facebook Live, but I considered that during this time, it is very important for us to remember that we have the capacity to love, and we have the capacity to be kind and tolerant to those around us. So if you're listening, try to call the people that you care about and reaffirm your relationship with them. Tell them that you care. Whatever problems, remember, problems are best dealt with when you're in the company of good people, in the company of good friends. And I kindly request from you, if today you have some time in the evening, in whatever tradition you belong to, take some time for prayer and try to reassure those around you that in the end of the day, love always wins. We have seen that again and again, and that is the core reality of the universe. So I hope that, this small message, whatever I can do and whatever you can do, we should do. Things that are beyond our control are definitely beyond our control, but when it comes to us, if we see peace in our heart, and if we see love in our heart, and if we live from a place of love within our heart, that music is definitely going to impact those around us. And, that is always good, because what else can we do? We can only be the best, and the best is to be connected always with God's love, with God's heart. So my message to you today is here. I have written an article before, so you can go ahead and read it. The eclipse, just the final thing I want to tell you, the eclipse is, it's of course ending. The results of the eclipse, we're going to be seeing them in tremendous change throughout, it's going to be for a whole year that we're going to be seeing the results of this eclipse. But in reality, the most challenging time comes after the eclipse. So 2 or 3 days after, try to be very, very careful in the way that you deal with people. Try to be extra tolerant, extra respectful. Remember, respect to all living entities is a must, especially, if we have affection for them. And then remember that Rahu is changing signs and will be conjuncting a fallen Mars, before the 24th. So all of that is going on during next week. So it's probably the most challenging week of the year. Not probably, for sure, it's going to be the most challenging week throughout the whole year. So this is the test that we're going to go through as a world and as a society. But if we're praying, then we increase the level of sattva, and we increase the level of consciousness of the world. So the more prayers we have, the better that is going to go for all of us. Because what are prayers? Prayers basically remind us of that beautiful state that we're all trying to achieve. We do what we do because we all want to be happy, and happiness is a state of love, peace, and service. So try to remember that. Try always to remember why you have come to this life, why are you here, and what it is that you value. And you will soon see that even though, maybe sometime, you're fighting with your husband, your wife, or your children, the point of you guys being together is love and service to each other. And that, if somebody has come as your child, it's because you both have to learn from each other. So the best possible answer to whatever quarrel you're in right now is not to be right. The only way to always be right is to love and be willing to serve the person in front of you. If the person is a superior, pay your respect to the person. Don't be envious. If the person in front of you is, inferior than you, then what you should do is you should be extra kind to the person, because in the end of the day, you have to realize that you're there to help them advance. And if the person is in an equal state with you, then the best possible thing you can do is be very respectful to them. Don't be proud. If you have great people around you, don't be proud. Instead of that, appreciate that, you have the mercy of being around great people or beautiful people, and pay due respect. And always, realize that every single step of the journey is an opportunity to serve, and that by loving and serving, we're already doing our part, and we're already on the way home. Home, paradise, is something you find in your heart. Home, paradise, is a spiritual attitude. It is consciousness. It is how you relate to God at every moment, and how you relate to absolute consciousness at every moment. that emanates from you, from your heart. It cannot be manifested externally. It is something that comes from within you. So it is your responsibility to cultivate these qualities. If you're listening, if you're out there, I thank you and I offer you my respect. And with the prayer that, you know, whatever you got from this message, you may go home and spread it. Again, you know, inauspicious situations happen to us. So, you know, as part of the natural program, because it is only during those times that we really get a chance to see what we're really made of. And we're made of love. So try to keep that consciousness as core consciousness. And for today, I wish you that in the company of your family, your friends, you may unite in prayer. And please accept my respect. Namaste. And I wish you a good evening. Goodbye, everyone.